Are we good to get started? Yes, you are unmuted. We do not have anyone online. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and call the March 27th Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee meeting to order. 5:00 p.m. My name is Kim Streeter. I'm the chair of the committee. Committee members in the room are Matt Layrell, Susan Bissell, Jim Richardson, like Larry Zervos is here. As fast planning staff that we have in the room is Jackson Fox, Olivia Lunsford, and Deborah Todd. I don't see that we have any other guests online at the moment, and we also have Nicole Stewart here as an attendee. Thank you for joining us today. I will move on to agenda item number 3, which is the approval of the Thursday, March 27th, 2025 agenda. Jim motions to
I'll second.
Susan seconds. The next item is the approval of the February 27th, 2025 meeting minutes. This is on page 2 to 4 of your packet. Have a chance to look over the minutes. If you have any edits or corrections, we could do that now, otherwise it was good. Okay, Matt motions to approve it. We have a secretary seconds, all right. Yeah.
I got one question.
Okay.
On the bike toolkit. They're gonna be sent to the BPAC members with a checklist now. I haven't received anything. Is that coming out or?
Yeah, I saw that in the minutes as well. And I think that what Corey was touching on was my desire to, have all of us go out and like check on 2 kids.
Right.
So no, I have not gotten that list together yet. I've been preparing to get the launch just ready for the 2025 budget now. So that's kind of all part of it, but no, you have not got anything for me on this yet.
Okay.
Okay. Forward to that. And we'll move on to item number 5, which is our staff working group chair report.
Yeah, I can start. We'll turn it over to Olivia if she has the other updates.
Okay.
Page 5 in the packet. Is that right? 5?
Yeah, the numbering, I
Yeah, she's something.
never get it
Anyways,
right.
yeah, just speaking to our technical committee and policy board meeting earlier this month. There was a few actions that they've taken up. Some decisions have been made, some decisions have been postponed. But for the first action for the committee and the board was consideration if we deprogrammed the construction funding for Pearl Creek Elementary School access improvements. What would we spend that funding on? Well, that and the electric vehicle charging stations in our air quality program. And looking at our list of projects that have been nominated as fast planning and scored by our technical committee and are next in line waiting for funding. This includes purchasing additional compressed natural gas buses for Max Transit. Currently, they have, I believe, 3 new compressed natural gas buses delivered to them. I think they've got 2 more on order. They would like fast planning to purchase them 2 more buses. These are $900,000 each, so pretty expensive. But Pearl Creek Elementary access improvements, that's a $4.5 million project. And then the electric vehicle charging stations is a $2.4 million project. I'll get back to you on those 2 items there. But in any event, there's about $7 million that's been freed up between those 2 projects. The second one was UAF is still very much interested in converting their shuttle bus fleet to compressed natural gas shuttle buses. And they would like us to purchase those for them. They're much cheaper than the Max Transit buses. But what comes along with that is a compressed natural gas fueling station that they would have to have up on campus. And we did previously fund the compressed natural gas fueling station for Max Transit at the new facility. Another one is initiating design starts for the improvements identified in the West Valley and Hutchinson, the joint high school campus access and circulation study. The needs analysis for that just came out with about 20 different alternatives for improvements for traffic flow, pedestrian safety, lighting, et cetera, out of those school facilities. We really need to narrow down that list as kind of a next step with the 2 schools as to what we're going to consider funding. But we should have feedback from the schools by June on that. And then we do have $300,000 set aside for another high school access circulation study for North Pole. Based on the cost of the effort at West Valley and Hutchinson, a more appropriate number would be about $600,000 for that study. And so we're looking at doubling the cost to complete a good and thorough planning effort out there. And then we had some project nominations for more motor vehicle plugins at parking lots at North Pole City Hall and Pioneer Park's main parking lot. And then I've heard from Ron Davis on our committee here that DOT M&O would like us to purchase for them some additional sidewalk snow removal equipment as they're phasing out their holders. Those are the articulated tractors that they've been using for a number of years. I feel like we purchased those for DOT. It could be up to 10 years ago. Maybe it's only 7, but it's been a while. And they're somewhat in a state of disrepair in the parts come from overseas. So it's difficult to keep those out and operational. And they'd like to purchase some additional equipment to replace those. Based on the $7 million figure, if these other 2 projects are deprogrammed, we can pay for all of this. And so that was the recommendation that the technical committee advanced to the board. The board decided to postpone because certain board members are still hopeful that Pearl Creek will become a charter and still have bus service. But I think, as I've stated this committee in the past, for that particular project, if you don't have bus service at the level that the school receives today, these funds wouldn't necessarily be eligible for that school facility because it's supposed to be lead to air quality improvements. And there would be a new access road to the school that separates the vehicular traffic for parent student pickup drop off from the bus traffic. So that project, if it remains open as a charter school and it has somewhat of a limited bus service, the school district would need to take a new look at that project out there and rescope it to something more appropriate for the need for it as a charter school, and then renominate it to us as a different project, and we'd have to select a different funding source for it. But it would effectively reduce the cost of the project as well. So it doesn't take off the table us not doing anything out there. But we're basically waiting for the school district, the borough assembly, and the state to decide on how much funding is coming to Fairbanks before we make this decision. So I'm really just preparing a funding plan to, if this goes away, what do we put in its place? And we're going to talk about that in April at the meetings. With regard to the electric vehicle charging stations, the board had previously directed me to issue a call for project nominations for site hosts to install a network of electric vehicle charging stations. I paused that based on some of the executive orders from President Trump that have come out. And at this time, what I'm hearing out of Washington, D.C. is that as federal funding obligations are advanced to federal highways for approval, they are to flag every one of those projects that has the word electric vehicle in it and reject them. So I've not issued the call for project nominations, but the board did direct me this month to go ahead and turn in the paperwork and see what happens. If it gets rejected, we'll go a different route with the project. So again, another one up in the air, but I think I know what its fate is. But I've got my marching orders on that. Moving down to the next motion is somewhat related to this. Mass Transit is interested in purchasing new bike racks for their transit fleet. There is a new product out there that fits better fits fat tire bikes. And the quote from the vendor that they wanted to go with, I think it was Sportworks. It's $46,000 to totally outfit their fleet. But they only asked us for $25,000 out of our nonprofit bank account. So, okay, well, that's what I advanced. But the board didn't want to spend our nonprofit money on this. They wanted to spend federal money on it. I said, well, that's more complicated. And the need here is actually 46,000, not 25. So the board agreed to, or they asked me to fund this with federal money. And I said, if I do that, I'm raising the price tag to 50,000 for max. And so they agreed to that as well. So it's, you know, federal money has strings attached. It's more complicated on the procurement side to do these things. But we are purchasing bike racks for the entire transit fleet. And, but it'd be a different funding source and take a bit longer for us to pull off.
Are those racks on the bus itself?
Yep, in front of the bus.
In front?
Yep. Makes them even longer.
Sure does.
And then the last one, which is really, I don't think too pertinent for the Bike and Ped Advisory Committee, but I did prepare a comment letter on the statewide transportation improvement program, amendment number 2 that was out for public comment. And, I guess I'll just share with you, my big concern with this amendment is just the math. The commissioner's office has programmed $2.2 billion in projects for this fiscal year, when I'm very well aware they only have access to about 900 million total. Typically it's $750 million per year, but they got some additional money for the marine highway system. But the document is just not fiscally constrained. So I expect it to be partially approved with federal highways at the end of their review. And they have, I think, until April 20th to provide a decision, but it's not fiscally constrained. And I don't know that DOT is going to have success with that, with their federal review. But again, it's not really that pertinent to the BPAC. But that was my main comment out of the letter.
It's a worse financial constraint abnormality.
It means that they are, you know, a budget, right? You have, your expenditures cannot exceed what you expect to receive as revenue. The abnormality is that you can expect to receive about 900 million, but you're spending 2.2 billion in federal money. That doesn't make any sense to me.
It's
And
a big
then
abnormality.
it's an abnormality. And then, you know, the legislature provides enough funding to cover the 9% match to access those federal funds to the state each year. Well, that's based on an estimate of about $750 million per year. So the state doesn't even have enough match to deliver a $2.2 billion program. Anyways, the math just doesn't work out. It's upside down. So that's the abnormalities. So we're asking the commissioner's office to give us a presentation at our technical committee and policy board here at the April meetings to explain them. See what we hear. Sorry, that was a long one. I apologize, but
It's a long policy board meeting, yeah.
it's 3.5 hours of policy board, yeah. So, I don't know if Olivia, do you have any other updates to share?
As far as the staff report goes, not so much, because most of the stuff that I would add to that will probably just be with item 7C, but Corey did recently go down to Portland, and he wanted me to share the way that they disseminate their bike and head count data. And I'm currently in digitizing our bike and head count information over the last, like, how many years we've done it, 13. I've almost got a survey built in survey 123, and then that's gonna enable me to just like hop into a survey, fill it out really quick. And the hope would be that once we get all of the bugs worked out of that, we could give folks a digital or paper option for their bike and head count surveys. Probably not by this year, but by next year, we should have both of those options. But I'm not sure if they're using bike and head count data like that, or if they use eco counters, or if they're using Strava Metro data. I don't believe they're a nonprofit, so they'd have to pay for that. But they basically have their counts on the weekends and the weekdays. And then you can see, so like this is based on like 1,200 days of weekday counting. So they probably have a counter installed there. So that's a lot of places to be counting. I don't think that we have the capacity to do something like that, but this is further motivation to dig out our eco counters. And I think that that's something that we could put on the agenda for next month, if you all are willing to put in some elbow grease on that, like the deployment of that and everything, because I just don't really have the capacity to take all the eco counters out and set them all up. But we can put it on the agenda and maybe just be thinking, like, if you have the capacity to help schedule and deploy it and everything, because it'd be cool to have a map like this.
What does it take? I mean, you could have to connect it somehow.
Yeah.
Intersection.
They're like mobile eco counters, so yeah, we would have to come up with creative ways to install them at our particular locations, which we already do have the lists of the locations that we thought would be good for summer and winter. So I could dig up all of those old materials. And then we've got all the counters downstairs. But I think more than anything, in order for it to be successful, like a schedule or a place to start would just be really nice. And it's hard for me to make a schedule like that for a situation that other people might be having more involvement in, because like, then it's just, you know, we're scheduling to make a schedule to make a schedule. So I think that that would be one of my bigger requests is, okay, so like what, every 2 weeks, what day are we gonna go out and check the numbers? Or maybe someone could just go do it and upload the numbers onto the Google spreadsheet, like whatever it is. We could work on a workflow together, but maybe just not all of it falling on me to make the counting happen, on a very regular basis, or like checking in on the data. It'd be really cool if I could just check in on the data from my computer, because I know that like our BPAC members are out, you know, checking it or moving it or whatever. So anyways, we can set it up for an agenda item for next month if you guys are like open to maybe kind of just revisiting that with the perspective of like, a little bit of added responsibility. But that's really all I have. It's pretty cool. I definitely think I can make a cooler one. But.
What is this box there in the line?
Yeah, I
Not
don't,
share by time of day at all?
yeah,
What does that mean?
I
At
don't
all
really know.
stations, I assume.
Oh, maybe it's just cut off, okay.
Yeah, it is cut off, but I can't slide it over somehow, so. I think that's a dashboard issue. Oh,
There's a
oh,
slider.
oh,
There we go.
okay. So yeah, I think that just shows, you know, you've got your commute and then on average, like,
Those
Yeah.
are weekdays.
yep, and then the orange is weekends, so people are getting out later, going to the farmer's market, doing all the fun stuff. But it's cool because those times do meet up towards the end of the day, so the people that are biking to work, to all those meetings and stuff, yeah, it's fun. I do think that we could have something that would represent, or that would show something similar. Obviously, our numbers would be much smaller and we would have a lot less color on our map, but I think that we could do it. So, okay, we'll go back to. So funny, I was sharing that on Zoom. There's nobody on Zoom. Does that conclude your second part?
Go. Okay, go ahead and move on to item number six, which is our public comment period. Is there anybody here who would like to make a public comment?
I'm just looking at you, Nicole.
Seems like an odd time in the meeting to have public
Oh.
comment.
Do we have another one
Not
at
if you're
the,
angry about something, you really want to get it out.
Yeah.
And it's odd because you had to wait through the first 5 steps of the meeting.
I guess I do have a question, about the bike racks on the buses. Are there bike racks on the buses now?
Yeah,
There
Yes, could be.
A
they
fraction
have
of
a limit of 2.1-inch tires though, which is pretty small.
They're good for summer bikes.
The winter, yeah, they're good for a road bike, but not for a fat bike in the winter.
They're not on every bus, so that's also
They're not?
a problem. No, it's just, they're not on every bus, they're on specific buses, but they try to coordinate them for, you know, peak ridership and all of this stuff, but they are not on every bus. Yeah.
Do you have any idea how well used they are?
They're very, very well used.
Okay. Yeah, I noticed, yeah, when I was down in Portland, they actually have a place where you can practice getting your bike on and off those racks.
Hmm.
I found to be extremely helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a process, and they had a great video too, you know,
Mhm.
where it shows how to down the rack, you know, open it up, put your bike on there, stretch
Yep.
the things over it, so.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I was in Boulder this past week and at the central bus station, they had one on the walls, on the
Yeah,
sidewalk,
they-
right next to the sidewalk. At the bus station, they had one on the wall so you could practice.
Yeah.
We've had, well, we had 2 transit open houses where there was a bus and, we made sure that they had one with a bike rack so that people could practice. And that was really fun because the bus acted sort of as like a living room outside of that transit planning open house. So people could like go inside of the bus and check it out. And at that event, you just reminded me, I took a video of the bus operator doing the bike rack, with every intention to turn it into a tutorial, so. I'll dig that up. I'll add that to the action items, and then we can check that box on the bicycle friendly community application.
You need like this TV on the front of the bus that plays it nonstop.
Right? That would be pretty cool, actually.
that sort of segues us into item 7A. Is the bicycle friendly community application.
I can, sorry. Bus video tutorial, hold on, you're right, action items. So yeah, page 6.
Page 8 of your
Oh,
packet.
right, that's right. I messed up. So this section is the one, it's, oh, yeah,
wait,
no, it is page 6, yeah, evaluation and planning. Is the one that I'm working on, the next couple of weeks, as well as I think we're getting closer to the conclusion. But I did wanna know, so Jackson was telling me that at the last meeting, you guys were like, well, I don't know if a lot of these apply to us. That was the education chapter, which I still want to get with you on, but I'm going through and I'm basically trying to answer everything for myself and then following up with you guys, individually as well as with community planning. I reached out to Durham School Services the other day to see if their bus drivers get bicycle specific trainings, things like that, just as we're going through. But today I did the, not enrichment, encouragement section. And I gotta say, I think with the encouragement section being done, I was feeling really discouraged at the beginning when you're looking at like our number of road miles and our number of bike miles and getting all of that data. And then, thinking about like our bikeable season. And then the engineering section made me feel even worse. But the education and, like encouragement section has made me feel really excited again. And the questions that I answered today, I mean, I was able to just check like a lot of the boxes, like probably 50% of them, if not more. So I think that with that in mind, we could be a strong contender for bronze, which I said in my email to you guys. And I'm very confident in the encouragement section just because we started the Bike Friendly Fairbanks program, as fast planning. And so I feel like we've got a really strong pulse on what businesses are wanting, how they're contributing, and the efforts that they're making to bring more bicyclists. Where I need some help is, there are actually some questions in here, but where I need some help is like, additional efforts that I might just not be aware of as a result of, you know, just kind of doing all of the like planning on this side of things. And so for those of you who like get out and volunteer for the Esther Fire Department or are on the Fairbanks Cycle Club board, there are some of these questions that I think you might be more qualified to answer. Or participating in Ride Fridays, Matt, like I know you go to a lot of those. And I think that there are some of these questions that could just totally apply, like that's essentially it's organized biking. So, kind of looking at it through that lens and, there is a section about our Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee on page 11. So I was trying to, I know Jackson has this in his spreadsheet, so they'll meet monthly. In our local groups, so yeah, here's where I have a question, like, Travis, could I put that Fairbanks Cycle Club is represented on the BPAC as a result of your attendance here, even though you're not technically like a cycle club seat? I mean, it seems reasonable, right?
I think so.
Okay, that's like my read on it, but I just wanted to make sure that we were kind of all on the same page about that. And then we talked about, we're actually talking about it later today, adding an additional seat for accessible infrastructure for persons with disabilities. And then we talked about transit. But I kind of wanted to bring this page up because there are a lot of things listed here that we don't necessarily have represented on our bike and ped committee. Some of them are represented on our technical committee, but it might be worth, since we're having that conversation a little bit later about, our name and kind of amending our roles and responsibilities to include seats for a couple of additional, representatives. It might be just also worth taking a look at this and seeing if maybe there's just like a third one that we should tack on, because we've already established transit and then we've established persons with disability or disability services. Something. Any strong like thoughts about anything else that you're seeing on that list?
Like, are you asking if we should try to amend the BPAC to have more seats that are available to these people, or that the seats that we have, we like ask the person that's responsible for appointing the seats to like consider these things when they're appointed?
I guess that's a good
Yeah, it's a good
point.
question.
The committee can go either way.
Mhm.
I guess my gut said, when we talked about this last month, is that we should add additional seats for folks, you know, at large, and that fast planning staff would reach out to fill these seats.
And the
With
intent.
whoever we can find, so it's not in the control of the city or the borough or the state to appoint people like their own staff members to these seats.
Mhm.
Even if it was like a quarterly check-in versus a monthly, that could be at least some representation.
Yeah, that's a good idea too. Okay, yeah, we can kind of continue that conversation, with the next agenda item, but I guess I would just ask if there was anything else on this list that you could pick that wasn't transit or, persons with disabilities. What would it be? I think I would pick public health or school board. But that's me.
And I would love to have someone from law enforcement sit on our committee. So we can talk more about law enforcement or lack thereof and have somebody who's hearing it.
Having that might help us be a little bit more proactive for safety hazards rather than.
What about like volunteers and policing? Would that be a good fit, Olivia? It's kind of a one-person show, right?
Yeah, it's really like. One on them, she's got like a couple volunteers. But they do have a pretty strong pulse on people's habits in and out of high volume areas.
Well, they're the ones that are originally managing the bike helmet distribution.
Do they have to be active duty or can they be retired?
I think retired.
Fine, because I know Eric Jukes is
Oh, yeah, Jews, yeah.
like 100% triathlon, everything.
He sure is.
I mean, he's technically retired, got his little side business, but I think he'd be a good fit.
He's a friendly face.
Cool, okay, well, yeah, if law enforcement is the one that people are leaning towards, we can make mental note of that for later. And I just kind of wanna scroll through this. Did anybody like arbitrarily answer any specific sections of this before you guys got here? And if so, then we can just go through it real quick.
All right, several questions. One
Okay.
is, first of all, what's the purpose of going through all this?
Well, it would get us on the map, the bicycle friendly community map with the League of American Cyclists. So. I mean, I think that there's lots of reasons and uses for that, but number one, people could look at it and say, oh, I didn't know that Fairbanks had so many things going on. Let me look into that a little bit more. And then they might be like inclined to fly their bike up here because we have repair kits all over town or whatever, which would be cool. It would just contribute to the bicycle.
Okay, the organization
Mhm.
is a private organization
It's the League of American Cyclists. They're a nonprofit.
or a nonprofit?
Mhm. Yeah.
They're not getting any funds from the Fed because, they got DPI in there.
Yeah, no.
Okay, the other question is that spending all this time on here. There's some important points in here that are worth following up on.
For sure.
Is that what we wanna concentrate on, or do we wanna concentrate on doing the whole thing? That's a concern I have, because there's only so much time, there are only so many people. We pick out the areas that this points out to really pertain to us and concentrate them, or do we go through the whole process and apply?
Well, I think going through the process and answering all the questions gives us a really strong baseline for where we can strengthen. And so I think that it's a good exercise for all of us to read through every one of these pages, which is why I'm putting them in the packet, whether you guys read them or not. That's whatever, but the exercise, I mean, already has just been so valuable for me in applying, and it seems only reasonable to keep our bike and ped committee up to date on like what I'm learning in the application process. And then we take this baseline and say, here are all of the things that we're missing, or here's what we're doing kind of a quarter of the way, how can we strengthen it? And I think that ultimately, this effort is just going to give us like a continued conversation. Like honestly, we could probably have a standing bike friendly community agenda item in the future.
And I think Travis brought up kind of the same thing last month. It's not just what have we done, it's what
Right,
could we be
what can we
doing.
do? Yeah, and so then that's the other thing, like if there's something that you see in this exercise of like reading through it, if there's something that you see that really speaks to you, or like you have an idea that could be easily implementable, I think that it would be great to know, because I definitely feel pretty isolated. I'm just like swimming around in ideas of ways that we could just connect people who walk and roll in this community. But if there's something where you were like, oh, I could champion that, right? I think that would be really cool. So it's worth reading through or you know somebody, maybe they don't have time to be on a committee, but they have time to do that one thing.
Right,
What is the bike league?
The League of American Bicyclists. I mean, I don't know all of the history, but they have a whole bunch of resources. So Bicycle Friendly America is where you can find out like the scoring of communities, and like general bikeability. I don't know why it's not loading. Oh, and so, yeah, you can see like where they rank in terms of bikeability. It's working. So that's a really nice place to start with the resource. Right now, we're the lightest blue that there is. And I think it could just be really cool to, click on this map and then be like, wow, Fairbanks is actually pretty bikeable. The worst. Yeah.
We have 4 bike friendly communities. What are they?
Ah. I know one of them was Anchorage for a while, but the last I saw was 2008. So, given all of the deaths this year, I'm not sure. I don't know how.
At the top, there was a button for states, I thought,
Oh, yeah, it was like the list.
right above that, right above your cursor.
This mouse has a serious lag on it.
Right about you.
Yeah.
Up, further up higher.
Oh, wait. Well, I'm gonna
There's
press.
a drop down there.
Okay.
Oh,
one sec.
no,
Wow. Shots.
got to you.
It is bikeable. There's not a lot of traffic.
Bikeable?
But it's cool that they like made the effort to apply, like as we're seeing, it's no small.
Oh,
task.
yeah. Here, scroll up, there's the last guy I saw.
Oh.
Anchorage.
Yeah, figures.
Silver, oh, wow.
Yeah,
They can be so.
Wow, silver.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, that's what I'm saying. So, and then to answer a little more of your question, Larry, they do the cycling education, so then they have league certified instructors, and we have a couple in our community. Nathan Bells was one for a while. I don't know if he's renewed his certification, or if anybody else knows a league certified instructor, but it's all about just promoting not just biking, but like bike safety and proper, bicycling behavior to help like sort of bridge that gap between, you know, there's somebody who's angry that there's a biker on the road and then like, I have a right to be here on the road. They're sort of trying to bridge that gap by just teaching people ways to be on their bike that are, I don't know, not accommodating to vehicles, but just like letting them know that you're there and also respecting the roads, the rules of the road, etc. So they're a pretty awesome resource. And they are out. Summit. I haven't gotten one of their summits yet, but they also, yeah, just share all that information, so. And I honestly didn't think that before I started applying, I didn't really know if we had a shot. I did want to look through their list of questions for the purpose I previously explained, but then Evie, if any of you remember Evie, she sent me the application. She was like, hey, I think we have a really good shot at this. I was like, really? You know, just like from a totally outside perspective, even went to the Winter Cycling Congress in Edmonton, and came back and was looking through the application after last summer. And that kind of gave me the little push that I needed to at least crack it open and say, maybe, and also if Anchorage can be silver. You know, so. Okay, so we have committee meetings.
Start bike audits and everything.
I know. Yeah.
Which city officials do you think would regularly do?
I don't know. Good question. It's a cool.
I got nothing.
What page is that on? Yeah. There was one that I saw in the last section that was about, like an earn a bike program. And I totally thought that that could be a pretty passive thing that fast planning could do. Like kids could, like each school has a bike that kids could earn. I mean, I think we could do that, right? Just giving my but earn a bike would be fun. It'd be kind of like, you know, a mathathon or something, but you could bike habits. So yeah, things like that were. Which one did you say?
Bike audit, I think that'd be fun. Pick a bike path once a month and say, we're gonna go ride.
That'd be awesome.
Invite public officials to go ride with us. See if it needs to be repaved.
Who would participate?
We can do the old farmers loop bike trail.
Prior, Mike.
That's true. I think Mayor Hopkins would keep that out, honestly. It'd be nice to have a little more buy-in from the borough on some of the, yeah, the like bike infrastructure around town. Cause it's like it serves for our residents, but
You can even do one of those little YouTube videos.
that's what I was thinking. Throw it up on Instagram Reels, TikTok, you name it. But that's great. Okay. Next. All the tabling for sure. Speaking of which, I'm gonna be tabling at REI soon. Swing by, say hi.
This thing is certainly comprehensive, isn't it?
It is, but yeah, when you look through this, I mean, in-person tabling, or face-to-face engagement opportunities, we can check that box, we can check this box. Public meetings are virtual and in person, done. Public meetings or other engagement opportunities are offered at right times. The meetings aren't, but our bike valet or like head count, all of that stuff for people to volunteer, different times. So when you're looking at it kind of through that lens, it's like, wow, we actually, I mean, we can check a lot of stuff off. Would love to have a sign language interpreter. Gonna put that in our next meeting.
Somebody needs to bring cookies. Says food is ready to provide.
We don't have a comprehensive bicycle master plan, but we've got the non-motorized transportation plan. And I can't remember, do you remember if the borough adopted it as an element? They didn't. Okay. We should change that for the next comp plan. Budget, and then sometimes it gets a little difficult because I'm answering for the Fairbanks North Shore, the city of Fairbanks and city of Norfolk, so. I guess. We have a performance measurement program for biking or active transportation infrastructure. That's like an engineering question, but.
No, we don't.
I feel comfortable moving on if you guys are good. I just, like I said, I really just want to keep the conversation going and just keep a lot of eyes on it. And if I have like specific targeted questions, I'll reach out to those of you that have told me you're willing to answer questions. Ron sent me a bunch of responses to engineering section. That was easy lemon squeeze. It was really great. But yeah. I mean, we're on track. That's the ultimate report. We're on track for me to hit the submit button on time. And my general feeling is that we have a decent chance of getting some sort of acknowledgement.
When is it due?
Oh, mid-June, mid-June. Yeah, it's kind of wild. When I made that schedule, I was like, oh, it's in 6 months. Now I'm like, oh my gosh. It's gonna be fun.
Anyone have any other comments they want to share about this application? Hearing none, move on to the next item. Thanks for all your work on that, Olivia.
It just started.
I know. It's wonderful parts. The next item is our bicycle and pedestrian advisory committee name change on page 33. You flip to that page in your packet, you'll go ahead and see the survey results.
Oh yeah. Did anybody else take it after I sent out that email? Access to the results. Corey set it up.
You who voted on it? We,
I did.
Hopefully you guys did.
but it's not that very well.
No, there's not that many. But I mean, at least, I think we added like 6 options, so it at least weed it out in quite a few. Okay, whatever, it's not working, so we'll just go by this.
Okay.
Yeah. So with this item, we're hoping to do 2 things. Maybe solidify the BPAC name change. And then also amend the roles and responsibilities document. So for that, we would probably need 2 motions.
Separate motions.
Separate motions. So yeah, open for discussion on.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess. I think we have a forum.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
And you can do public comments and then.
That's what I was thinking. I can introduce it just a little bit for the sake of our public attendee. Corey and I, in our lit review efforts, we slowly started to come around to the idea that maybe we needed to establish a name change for the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. While it is inclusive, it's not as inclusive as it could be. So we presented Alt-Mac first. Now it's like way at the bottom, which is great because you guys have been doing the hard work of thinking about potential options and general meetings and what could we, how do we feel as a committee and how can we promote ourselves as a committee? So AC3 or A3C or, some iteration of that is the top selection so far. And Don Galligan, we were talking to him in the staff meeting on Tuesday, and he also said that that would be his choice, without even looking at, he hadn't even seen this data. But the connected communities aspect of it highlights two things. It's like geography, we're using transportation infrastructure to connect communities, Esther, Fairbanks, North Pole, whatever, but then it's also connecting biking community, the transit community, the pedestrian community, seniors, like the list goes on. So with all of that in mind, I guess I would say that my general, the one that I like the most has definitely changed, and I actually really like the ACCC, the A3C, the AC3. I need a genius to come up with something else.
I'll spend my 2 cents. Okay, I think, I like TAC, and I think we should just vote and get it done with, and let's get on with it, because what the name is, I don't think makes that much difference. We need to get going.
From my point of view, I like the Walk and Roll Advisory Committee, although I didn't like it at first. After looking at all these modes and bureaucratic terms, this is simple, straightforward, and fun.
That's true.
I like the advisory for need for connected communities, but I don't necessarily think that like when you say connected communities, that people know it's for transportation or transit.
It fits, but it's too broad.
Okay. Okay. My one reservation with the TAC, TAAC, is that a lot of other MPOs in the country, that's what they call their technical committee. So, yeah. That's my one concern. So, I don't know, I mean, we could call, like, walk and roll could be WARAC.
We don't even need the acronym.
No, I mean, do you live in Fairbanks? We need an acronym.
Or is it just rack, the W somewhere?
Oh, we could do that, rack, and then it'd be like, so we'd still have a bike rack?
Yeah, that's great, yeah.
Or we could call it bike rack, bike walk and roll.
Uh,
Then the roll would encompass the wheelchair users, skateboarders.
I actually really like that. What do you think, Jackson?
Yeah, you gotta sell this, or you gotta stand up and.
I agree that walk and roll sounds fun. It's like rock and roll.
We gotta look.
People, when you say that you're the walk and roll committee, they're gonna remember that.
Yeah,
They just, it's got a positive spin to it. and
yeah.
I think that would be very well received by our other bodies and the general public.
I bet you there's a way we could brand it so that bike like isn't the focus, but we can still do like bike rack or like the free bike valet is, brought to you by bike rack. Like somehow we can figure that out.
or
But I do like that. I like that the W is silent. That's great. I'm
That was
great.
my favorite.
Okay. Okay, well, I guess we need a solution.
public comment that motion.
No,
Okay,
Yes, you have to hear it.
oh,
yeah,
yeah.
Oh, no, I agree, I think walking was.
okay.
Hey, we got public comment.
Even though I voted for AC cubed.
Yeah, I thought it was moved. and then I-
I thought about it a lot. Last meeting, I liked that one, but this walk and roll was pretty good. It's way more memorable.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I do worry that the AC3 might be a little bit too big for like someone who just moves here or something, or is just getting into biking or walking everywhere and just decided that they're and a wheelchair needs to be advocated for, like, that maybe AC3 isn't like plain enough that they'll actually like see it on a website and decide, oh, I want to go to that.
Also like rack, because it's one. So. Like you mentioned BPAC, but sometimes just when you're talking, it's, I like rack a lot. And we could maybe make it look like bike.
I still like the idea of just making
Bike rack.
beat rack
Rack,
or bike rack.
yeah,
I mean, if we call it bike rack, then bike will take over the
take
whole.
over again, yeah, that's what I'm worried about, but yeah, be. I don't know.
Well, I'll make the motion that we rename our committee to Walk and Roll Advisory.
I'll second that.
Thomas and Mary. Go ahead, all in favor. All opposed.
Oh, are you gonna, what do you want?
Yes.
Matt, you can draw.
It's fine, like. It's one of those, like, to me, it's fine. Like, I don't love any of them,
Yeah, see, that's the trouble.
but like, out of all of them, like, yeah, that's probably the best, most self-explanatory option.
Yeah, we had a long list.
I mean, I think BPAC's pretty good, except that if we are trying to advocate for
Yeah.
people who are not able to walk or bike, then that's true.
Yeah.
We kind of took a break there in the middle of votings. Do we want,
Maybe just ask if there's any opposed.
okay, any
I'm gonna write
opposed?
your name down.
Okay. All right,
Go on the record.
okay, none opposed. So motion carries.
And then, yeah, Jackson, I don't know if you'd be willing to just kind of, it's not technically contingent because it's bundled into this.
Yeah, and
change.
I think we can open it up for, a motion anybody wants to make now to add any additional seats to the committee that are focused on specific user groups or representatives. That list for your reference was back on page 11 of the packet. The discussion about expand the committee with additional seats, or do you just want to make sure that the non-motorized representatives come from those?
Do we have some organic document that stipulates the number of members and what they represent?
Yeah, it's right there, your representatives.
That's, yeah, the bottom of the page up there. It just
Okay.
says the
Yeah, I've seen that.
city of Fairbanks gets to select 2 people at large, or Pole gets 1, borough gets 2, state gets 2, and then we at FAST get 2.
And who set that up? And I mean, is it written somewhere as it's a requirement that we have those representatives?
This is in our policies and procedures for
That's right.
FAST planning, so this is something that was approved by our technical committee and policy board, and the policy board definitely, modified it. What was sent to them. This is how the policy board wanted to see the balance of the seat appointments to be. But it's been problematic because, North Pole hasn't filled that seat for, might be going on 4 years now.
Years.
Welch wouldn't appoint someone. And the new mayor is thinking about it, but hasn't identified anybody yet. The state, I believe we only have one appointment.
Yeah, that's wrong.
Ron Davis. So the
Joe.
other seat's unfulfilled, and
Yeah, Joe wouldn't sign off.
Joe wouldn't, appoint a second person. And now we have Catherine Keith as acting director, so, and she doesn't even live in our community.
So there's, they said state of Alaska, so I was under the impression it was the DOT appointed seats. But
It could be DOT or Department of Environmental Conservation, because they also have a seat on our board. So Jason Knowles in their quality department could appoint somebody. But again, he doesn't live in our community either, so he doesn't have any context to who to appoint.
but are there others? I mean, does it have to be those two state agencies or could it be any state agency?
The way it's written, it could be any, but following the intent of the board is that the people sitting on the board, they would be the individuals appointing these seats. So like the borough, what they did, they said, okay, the mayor's gonna appoint one person and the assembly member's gonna appoint another person. So, anyways, they've got their seven board members, they've got their 7 seats. And then we get to pick 2 people at large. But again, there's seats that have been vacant for a while, and for the state to appoint a state employee to this, to the committee, I don't think was appropriate. This is supposed to be somewhat of a citizens advisory committee.
I mean, it definitely is.
Yep.
Just based on,
So, I mean, the motion could be too, is to abandon this list of representatives and come up with your new list. The question is amongst existing serving members, do you represent any other group other than bicyclists or pedestrians?
I think again, law enforcement would be a good. If nothing else, it's outreach towards law enforcement. This is what we see as a community.
Yep.
That's a little more in their lap. They can carry it back to their agency. So I think that would be a good one. Like I said earlier, I don't think it necessarily needs to be an active duty officer. Like if we can get somebody that's interested in, bike and pedestrian stuff. I know, was it Jim Dyer was doing stuff downtown on foot 1 year? He's retired, but if he's still in town, they have people within, at least FPD does, within their organization that are a little more active. And I know the troopers have a group too. Airport Police and Fire has a handful of guys that are fairly active. So it doesn't necessarily have to be one agency, but getting some sort of representation.
in the city of Fairbanks, we don't have a cycling officer, do we? Like, I've seen that in other communities.
No.
Well, I used to have some guys on bikes in summer.
Yeah, I don't think it was a dedicated,
No.
like Jim Geyer was foot patrol, but they had bikes available. I think they had 2 bikes at FPD.
I think law enforcement would be good. I also think a seat from the school board or the school district or something like that, appointed by the school district. And both advocate for school-based infrastructure. And can also hear complaints from us as a board and from the public comment about anything that relates to walking or biking around schools.
I've also mentioned transit. Somebody who either uses transit or works in transit, and then. Oh. the ADA.
It's long-term access Alaska.
So that would be like,
or similar organization.
if we did school district, law enforcement. Well, I don't, which law enforcement agency would
I would just do law enforcement at large to
have one?
allow us to get any warm body we can that would be interested in this
So
topic.
would we add these as past planning executive director gets to appoint, but has to appoint like within this category? Or is
So
this-
yeah, I would just add the bullets, law enforcement, school district, transit representative. With the understanding that past planning staff would reach out to find someone. Fill the seat.
Well,
And we don't, and like, we wouldn't need like school district to confirm a member. I mean. There was this woman, served on our committee years ago. Her last name is Jackson, but she worked for the school district, but she was like their safety and drug-free school place coordinator. Anyways, it was a very logical fit for us. But when she left that position, I think she works at the hospital now, but. We did have that at one time, which was wonderful, huge benefit. But there might be a safety coordinator or something like that. Some of the school districts serving with our project enhancement committee.
That's bad.
Yeah,
She's in full too, twist her arm and.
Well, she had the choice to serve on this committee or project enhancement committee if she chose the other. But she can't double it.
and we'd have to run this like, right, like all this restructuring.
The PD has to approve it, this says,
Yep.
policy board.
I don't think we'll come into much resistance.
So do you think it's realistic to add the word? Like options when,
I do, because I don't know that we're gonna be able to fill every one of these.
right, that's.
We already have 2 seats that are not filled and haven't been filled for years.
Okay.
So
Which
it's not
two seats aren't filled?
North Pole and the second
And the
state.
second statement. So I wonder if the policy board would, so right now the seats are, they're like 3-month or 3-year terms or 2
We
year?
got rid of term limits.
We did, okay.
Yeah, when Nathan Bells got kicked off the committee due to term limits,
Yeah.
technical committee and policy board said, all right, we don't need term limits. We don't want to lose folks that want to continue to serve.
I wonder if the policy board would approve a rule that if there's a vacancy for more than 3 months, fast planning can fill the vacancy with the understanding that like that the entity that's supposed, the agency that's supposed to fill it can
represent.
I feel like I wrote that in
I
the
was gonna
policy,
say, I
and that was
think I
something that
Suggested that
the
we
board,
talked about.
one board member made a motion to remove that sentence.
Yeah,
Okay,
I remember that.
yeah, I do feel like we talked about this before.
Yes.
Okay,
It's a super good idea.
because then you could just do the North Pole one, and then if the mayor was like, well, I don't like this person that got appointed, then they could just turn around and appoint somebody.
Yeah, definitely added incentive to get someone here. Yeah.
Anyways, we tried that, it didn't work. We got law enforcement, school district, transit, and then persons with disabilities or persons with mobility impairments. Is that more appropriate or?
I think persons with disabilities. is
Okay.
fine. One person. Oh, and then Travis had mentioned school district.
Persons with disabilities or someone like. We had, like, if you can't find someone with disability who wants.
Well, like, or someone that works at Access Alaska and is just
Like wall busters.
face to face with us every day, yeah. Representation of some.
I mean, the assumption is, again, like if we add these 4 additional seats that we may not be able to fill them all right away. Or some people may participate for 6 months and then might not be interested, or maybe they change jobs, or whatever it may be, but I don't know that we're getting 100% success rate. This committee's not gonna double in size. still be a reasonable number of people. We just want some fresh advocates at the table for specific user groups.
Would it be you guys that reach out and make the contact and ask them to come, or who would do that?
We would, but we would certainly, like, Matt knows Eric Jukes. Matt wants to call up Eric and say, hey, we got this law enforcement representative on the BPAC, you interested in doing this? And he could explain to him what it's about.
And if he's not, I'm sure Eric could have a whole list of names that
Yep.
might be interested, that might
So, like,
still be active
We're open to
duty.
you all giving us names to reach out to folks,
Yeah.
want to control the selections. We just want to have the power to sign people up and not have to rely on a mayor, and other elected official to pick someone.
Letting the seats sit empty.
Yep. Yeah, if somebody wants to make a motion to add those 4 seats, I will.
Motions to add 4 seats.
Second.
Susan. Oh, Matt.
And second was Susan. And the motion is to add 4 new seats to the rec.
Oh.
No, to the policy board.
Oh,
Yeah. To add new seats for representatives from law enforcement, the school district, transit, and persons with disabilities.
We have to vote on the motion.
Anyone opposed?
Anyone
You
opposed?
could just do that, yeah.
Okay. And sometimes Robert's rules feel silly in this room. All right, motion carries. Okay, so it's exciting. We'll get new faces. More people to talk about. That's what. Okay, moving along, we'll go on to item 7C, which is the bicycle friendly FDX program on page 34, or sorry, 35 of your packet.
Yeah. we can take it. So first things first, I don't know if you guys know, but Evie is no longer, in the role at Parks and Rec, and it is now Caitlin Lenahan, who has, a lot of really great grassroots level, bike community experience from her lifetime in Pittsburgh. She was involved with like Pittsburgh, for a number of years, and so when she went into Evie's role, she actually reached out to me about talking like nuts and bolts of the bike valet, and then how Parks and Rec could kind of help bolster our efforts as an organization and as a committee. So at first we were kind of hoping like, okay, Parks and Rec, it'd be cool if they could just adopt the bike valet. But she's not sure about staff time and whatnot, but we do think that there's opportunity in here somewhere to be able to assign like a paid Parks and Rec staff member to be present at a bike valet each time, which would be really great. So that would help take a bit of the burden off of us. And then we talked about storing all the bike valet stuff at Joy Community Center. It's easy to get in and out of, there's no stairs or elevator. So we talked about that and other ways that Parks and Rec could just help support us. She is wanting to do bike to work week again this year. So last year we didn't do it, but the year before, Evie had tables set up at, I think it was 8 locations, along people's commute to and from work. But Caitlin's ready to just like tag team with fast planning to go about planning it. So I'm really looking forward to that because we weren't really involved in the planning process last time. And I think that we could have a lot to offer, in terms of like what the mission is at each of these little booths, and maybe we make it some sort of like bingo card thing where you pass every booth, and if you fill out your card, then you get 10% off at Bankstown or something, a way to involve our bicycle friendly businesses and our bike friendly Fairbanks program in bike to work week on a much broader scale. I need swag ideas. I feel completely burnt out, honestly, so if anybody has an idea for a swag item that I could order, please tell me. We've done the reflective bands, we've done the vests, we've done, toques, or what do you guys call them, beanies, we've never done just like regular hats, I don't know, so anyways, please be thinking about swag. I want to have something fresh and fun for the booths at Bike to Work Week, which is the third week in May. Um, Yeah. May 12th through 16th, and then Bike to Work Day is Friday the 16th. And then the week after that is our bike and ped count, so that's kind of what I'm thinking is like, let's just do a really hard push to get our volunteers for the bike and ped count. And my goal is to have our visualized bike and ped count data by Bike to Work Week, so that it's all sort of like bundled in as like a biking in Fairbanks. Perfect, so those are kind of dates to remember. And then bike swaps. I was wondering if someone might have an update for me on a bike swap date, either from the Fairbanks Cycle Club, and then I know that Beaver Sports hosts one for a school.
West Valley.
West Valley?
Yeah.
Okay, do we have dates on either of those?
Yeah,
Okay,
Saturday, May 3rd.
okay, perfect. And then do we know about the West Valley one?
I believe it's the same day.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
Oh,
I think we picked a day and then it turned
No,
out to be the same.
it was like a week or two
Was it a
different
week
last
different?
year.
last year
it
it
was a week
was,
different.
it was a week different, because I remember I left my sandwich boards on that side. Got them later.
I think Eric Troyer told me it was gonna be the same day this
Okay,
because it was like the only day that fit his schedule. And he could get the fairgrounds building.
okay,
Apparently it's, West Valley High School's cross-country running team, so I don't know who's coaching that this year, but
Okay.
that, somebody to reach out to.
okay. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't even know what school it was. I just like saw a sign that said bike swap, and I had like bike and ped count sandwich boards in my car. I'm like, thank you. So that's great. And then the bike valet, did you guys talk about the nonprofit model at the last meeting? At all, Jackson, or?
I don't think so.
Okay. So we were, again, trying to figure out a way to address this like free bike valet. It's an amazing tool. People obviously want it. We've been approached by the fair, to run it there, and the botanical gardens, and I haven't touched base this year. But we kept like hundreds of bikes out of the gardens last year, so I would be kind of shocked if they didn't want us there this year, but understand if it was too many logistics for them. But all of that to say, I'm starting to feel like, oh my gosh, summer's coming, and we still haven't had anybody to like pass this off to. But Jackson and I were talking about how it could be a really great way for nonprofits to raise money. So we could essentially like pay a nonprofit, like donate to them, like let's say $500, and then they run the bike valet for the night at the botanical gardens or whatever. And the idea would be, you know, maybe there are some nonprofits that it really works super well for, and they would kind of get like accustomed to it. And I love that idea. I think it would be really great. We could also just exercise, you know, like we could have, like Susan's done so many of them. I know that I'd be able to say, you know, would you be able to show for an hour to train this one group this one time, you know? So just outsourcing in that capacity.
They could also put out a tip jar or something.
Well,
That's
exactly.
right. So
Yep.
it'd still be a free bike valet, but then the nonprofit could raise additional money by
Right,
collecting tips.
Yeah, because people are always wanting to pay us.
yeah.
It's like, we don't want your money.
Yeah.
For the nonprofit might want. it. So, you know, they
Yeah.
can grow that 500 into maybe 1,000 by the end of the event.
And get their name out to the community.
Exactly.
also.
Yeah. So like flow, like Friends of Ladies, Fairbanks Lady, Women, whatever that acronym is. See, Larry?
Ace Wrestling.
Yeah, thank you. They're a nonprofit, I'm gonna start community festival. Like, they could totally just make a flow themed bike valet for one of the gardens. And we can get it to where it's like a schedule, so it's like this night it's gonna be Friends of Fox Spring. So that is absolutely where I see the free bike valet going. And I just wanted to like kind of keep everyone up to date on what we're thinking in terms of that. And then also, how do I get in touch with PTAs? Are booster clubs at schools nonprofits as well?
They
Because
are.
they are.
The PTAs are not all nonprofits.
So is a booster club under a PTA? Like, these are things that I don't know because I don't.
I know the Lathrop ski teams. It's a 501c3.
They are?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, high school sports teams, yeah, they'd be perfect for this too.
Start doing bike ballets. That's the other thing is, this model is good because more organizations know that bike ballets are a thing, whether they actually are involved in running them or not, the more events around town will
Yes.
know that it's
Have
an
them.
idea.
Might be one
It'd be
every
great if we got to an idea, like, time where like you couldn't have a bike ballet everywhere because we didn't have enough bike racks. That's just set up.
Well, I will buy more. That would be great, but yes, I love where your card's at. That will be awesome. So great. Sounds like you all dig it. I have some decision fatigue in terms of like where to start. And I think like, is there like an overarching PTA that I can reach out to that then trickles
All the
down?
school PTAs are underneath the umbrella PTA.
They are. Okay, I'm gonna reach out to an umbrella PTA. And then I can mention the sports clubs to the same people. Is that what our general knowledge of the education system? That's.
They could probably point you in the right direction, but I know like the booster club for Lathrop ski, it's 2 parents.
Okay,
And kind of everything runs through the front office at the school. Like if you need to drop a check off, you drop it off at the front office of the school. If you can't get to one of the 2 parents. I think that the individual booster clubs are a little looser than the PTA.
okay. Umbrella PTA, I'll reach out to North Star Community Foundation, and I'm actually gonna try to attend one of their meetings, but I mean, like,
That's what I thought it was Nordic Ski Club in Fairbanks,
oh, well, that too.
which is also not.
It is. It's a good point. And then do we all agree that 500 seems like a good number where it's like, yeah, that's like definitely something.
That's
And,
motivating.
okay. Cool. Awesome.
What's the typical commitment for number of hours?
It depends, but if we have like the botanical gardens set up from 4 to, when does music start? Music starts at 6?
When I did it, it was about 4 hours.
That's what my like gut check was, 4 hours.
I think it was
$500 for 4 hours. It's a good deal.
Yeah, and then if you have like a group, you know.
Yeah, and I want to say like all the shifts for Midnight Sunfest and all that, those were 4 hours.
Oh, yeah, I definitely try to keep those pretty low. But that
Yeah,
would be
you could sign up multiple nonprofits, but, all right, you get the morning, you get the afternoon, you get the evening. And just run them back to back.
very excited about
Midnight
this. Okay, cool. So then if you think of any other nonprofits, just like, give them my phone number or, you know, like if you wind up having this conversation with anybody, I just want to start giving people the opportunity to earn a little bit and, put some energy into a place that maybe they haven't before, community-wide. So I think those are all of my bike-friendly community updates. Oh, I do have the little screenshot of the classes. We're gonna have, I wanted your input on this as a RAC committee, just RAC. Where should we do the Did You Bike Here drawing for the spring semester? We usually run this program, Did You Bike Here? So we put our little box up, and then if someone has biked there that day, so the last one we did was a little owl. They get to put their name in the box, and then they also had to check a box that said, if my name is drawn, I will be able to attend this class that goes from this day to this day. And so this is our effort to get people into bicycle maintenance, for free. And so then Simon kind of works to, let people know like, well, yeah, and then this tool that we're using is in the repair kit at all places around town. So I just wanted to see if any of you had like a business that immediately came to mind, that would be great for this time of year for DigiBike here.
Co-op market.
Co-op? Yeah, that'd be pretty fun. They're so enthusiastic. Okay.
I was gonna say the farmer's market, but I don't think they opened before May 9th. Okay.
That would be fun. We should.
Ballet.
Right. I don't have anything else. We're probably gonna have like a fully edited and maybe potentially ordered new version of the bikeways map, for our next meeting. So be on the lookout in your emails for an opportunity to provide a little bit of feedback. Some things that I want to add or make changes that I want to make to the bikeways map include adding the 85 bike parking spots that you guys have logged in the bike parking app. Woohoo. I know, you can think it's 85. I went there the other day and I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. So whether it's a heat map or something, I want to have a layer on there that represents that, hey, there's places for you to lock up here. And then I also got this idea from Caitlin during our meeting the other day, adding places where there are public restrooms. Because we don't really, I couldn't tell you where there are any, but I think that there are like 3 now. I know the Tanana Wayside has one. I know that there's one in one of these parks in the downtown area.
Behind Morris Thompson.
Behind Morris Thompson. So yeah, adding the public restrooms, I'm like, wow, how did we not think of that? But this is why you just keep talking and talking and talking. Talk to everybody. So any other
Water
ideas?
fountains.
Water fountains, okay, places you can fill your water bottle. Interesting. You can fill at the Morris Thompson Center from like 9 to 5. Well, maybe that's something that we could add to like the bike friendly. Like the little key is like you can fill your water here or whatever, okay. Okay. I think that's everything. Thanks, guys.
Any questions regarding that bike friendly program? Okay, moving on, go to number 8, which is new business.
No new business.
No new business, all right. Number 9, informational items.
Jim,
Did we talk about this fast planning bicycle pedestrian committee advisory rules and responsibilities? Did I just sleep through it?
Oh, I think that was to go with our action item.
That's what we were talking about, expanding the board.
No, just it says rules and regulations, or rules and responsibilities.
Yeah, the number of members is
It's about 2/3 the way down.
Oh, we just talked about that. All right.
Yeah.
but if you want to talk about those, we could totally slate that for next.
Well, I think we just. You can deal with that.
But now, if you're gonna
Yeah, we've got time. I'm gonna
pitch it.
advance the
policy
name
board
change,
anyway.
the number of seats, if there's additional provisions to this document you'd like to see. It's better done in front effort rather than spread it out.
Well, we just want to, I haven't looked at it closely. Maintain involvement seems like normally we start that.
Maybe like provide it.
Or just be involved.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You could do be involved as they are produced or other.
I don't think something like that needs a motion.
Yeah.
This administrative thing. So yeah, we can change that to be involved.
Committee members must have an interest.
That was to try to eliminate like the state appointing a staff member to the committee that has no interest in this topic. That's why that was written that way. But we love Ron. It's not anything to do with him.
Yeah. Sounds great.
We got to change the title.
Yep.
Good call. Honestly, would have been an easy miss for me.
Yeah, mark it up.
I'm excited about 15.
Anything else, Larry?
No, that's
Okay, we'll do that.
Jim, did you have an informational item?
I talked to Ron Davis.
Oh, okay.
I was wondering if you could follow up.
Yeah, and I sent that email, I specifically made sure he got it, so I didn't want to think he was coming from behind it. Anyway, it was a nice discussion. He told me about their equipment and, they actually have a device that they put on front of a, with their machine that put on the sidewalk and it kind of breaks up the hard pack. But, you know, to me, we've had some real big problems because that rain we had in February, there's nothing that they have that can take care of it. And, the other thing that's happened this year is that all the handicap ramps are buried. And so when you want to get off the handicap ramp, you got a 6-inch step because the sidewalks built up with ice and snow. And I'm pretty unhappy with the condition of the sidewalks. The streets are pretty clean. The sidewalks are just not usable right now. They're just totally unusable. And you know, I think that's an issue that we need to discuss and make the city council and maybe a state legislator, tell them we've got an issue that has to be addressed. I had a booklet that, one of those booklets that was passing out, Corey was passing out, it said in there that state of Washington did a survey. And I forget whether it's 20 or 25% of the people, it was 20% of the people, that included people under 16 though, do not have access to vehicles. They have to walk, they have to take the bus. I mean, you can't get to the bus stop right now. It's just impossible. And the city has a real problem. I really don't know if there's any solution to it, but they graded all the streets, got all the hard pack off they could, but it's just a sheet of ice on the east-west streets. The north-south are not too bad, but they're not west, they're just speeding links the whole way. So getting to the sidewalk inside the residential area is not feasible right now. Not for anybody, but somebody's truly fit physically. You know, I just think it's something that a city has to face, state has to face. And the fact that the public works for the city and the state DOT, sidewalks were added onto them with really no direction as to what to do and how to get them paved and when they should be done. Right now, all the streets are clean, especially for DOT, the streets are clean. And then the sidewalks clean. While that rain really blew it off because it created this ice pack, which they can't cut. There's just no way. I'm really think we have a problem that needs to be addressed, but we need a lot of support to do it.
Well, according to this book that I just read, when driving is not an option, 33% of our population are not drivers, don't have cars. Used
Yeah,
cars.
it's either don't have driver's license or don't have cars. Some people, the other thing they pointed out in there is that some people have driver's license, but they don't drive anymore. They just have the driver's license, so they have for voting.
Yeah,
For
identification.
and it's just an issue that the general public, doesn't really see, you know, either voting or whatever else. The bottom end gets the raw deal. So I'm frustrated.
Do you think that people struggle with like a lack of understanding the process? Like,
You know, I'm getting new hearing aids, but I'm unhappy with them. I didn't wear them. I'm having a hard time getting hearing.
I'm sorry about that. I'm just wondering, do you think that it's that people struggle with understanding process? And because I mean, one of the things that we try to advocate for is people filing civil rights complaints, and like accessibility is a civil rights issue. But I don't know. That's
Well,
just where my brain immediately goes.
You know, the other thing, when we sign an agreement to get money from the feds to do our streets, it includes the sidewalks and requires us to maintain them.
Mhm. Yes.
So I had another point of just escaping.
I know,
Oh, yeah, you know, the thing was. Well, and I told Ron this too, and, oh, by the way, he told me, when I mentioned it, that they have subcontracted out some of the sidewalks, private contract. Not all of them, like college in particular, the university. But, the fact that this has been laid on the street maintenance people without any direction is a major issue. I still think we need two separate entities to clean the sidewalk and the streets. And that way the sidewalks will be hit as soon as it snows, hopefully. And, you know, when you get that rain, if you get on there before it freezes, you got, you know, that's why the streets are somewhat clean. But, it's an issue we need to face.
know, I've had a couple people message me privately saying, hey, I know you worked for DOT or you work for DOT. What does it take to get this plowed, or what does it take to get attention? Like Evie's messaged me, Connor Trukowski's messaged me. There's been 2 or 3 other people that have shot me messages just from like Facebook friends or friend of a friend kind of deal. And the best answer I can give them is, here's the number for M&O Fairbanks. Don't call DOT, call M&O Fairbanks directly. Let them know that you rely on the sidewalks and these bike paths to get to and from work. And you do not use another form of transportation. And the excuse that, I mean, talking to Ron and talking to the girls in the office over at DOT, and we just don't know. And they're out there driving around, but they're looking at roads. They're not looking at sidewalks. And so part of it is on us to make those phone calls and say, hey, this desperately needs attention. And what seems to happen, I know with Connor, it was a day or 2 after he made the phone call, the section that he was worried about was cleaned up. The Pegger Road Bridge was what Evie had messaged me about 2 days after after I gave her the phone number, that was cleaned up.
Yeah, I don't know what you said about, yeah, sometimes there's the responsibility, it's like on both parties of it, because, yeah, their eyes are trained to be looking at the roads, and that's.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just you have to advocate and say, I need this to get to work, not just, this is messy.
Mhm.
It's, I need this.
This affects my livelihood, my well-being.
Yeah.
And man, who'd you say to contact instead of,
I can give you the number to M&O's office directly.
what's the office?
It's maintenance and operations for the
maintenance
state.
operations.
It's where Ron works.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna say, doesn't it just go to Ron?
It does from our, who maintains my.
I mean, when I call Ron, it goes directly to Ron. there is, a-
Ron directly.
yeah, there is an
Said, "Can you
office
get this
lady
done?"
there that she will talk to the, district managers and foremen. Versus if you call DOT, it has to go through 2 or 3 different departments before it gets to her, and then it goes to the foreman, and a lot of times, like playing that telephone game. The message gets lost somewhere along the way. You know, if you reach out to their, public relations, it's not the same people that maintain the sidewalks.
All right, the city, I sent a message just some time ago, I said now. Roads that haven't been cleaned since the last snow, which was at that time, 2 or 3 weeks before that. I said, they're really rough and they're slick. And I said, it'd be really nice if you skim graded them. Well, I called them on Friday, on Monday, they skim graded them. I don't know where they had it scheduled or where they actually did it. I was really happy.
You got some
Oh,
clouds.
that's good.
Had to be an accident. I try and stay on good terms with them. And, I call them, I contact them frequently.
Jim, are you taking photos? Remember how Peter used to like?
I have taken some, but yeah, I was going to take a bunch of them, but then, my wife had an accident and we were, the past 2 weeks have been pretty hectic.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was gonna go around and take pictures because, for example, going on the old Stees, as you approach College Road, the island there in College was just unusable. I mean, you had the plows come around and clean, but they don't do the sidewalk, and it's just horrible. And in the islands, they just don't have the proper equipment to do the islands. The graders are too big and the smaller stuff is too small. Now the city also has that gizmo they put on the back of their tractor or in front of it actually, and it breaks up the hard back. But unfortunately, didn't have a plow behind it or didn't follow it up with a plow. So I just, within a couple of days, you didn't notice any difference. I was gonna call them on that, and that's when my wife had their problem, and I haven't had a chance since.
Okay, yeah,
Gotta be
'cause
careful going up steps. My wife fell going up steps. And unfortunately, she did more than, they ended up with a medevac damage.
Wow. Was it outside? She was going outside stairs or inside stairs?
It was inside. Yeah. Coming up to go to bed.
What were you saying about the civil rights thing?
well, I mean, yeah, I wrote a little thing, like a social media post about just like know your rights, but I mean, like Jim was saying, these facilities are built with money that should be, allocated to everybody in a way that is appropriate. And it's like, if these facilities aren't accessible, I think that part of the process is leveraging like your rights as a citizen and submitting complaints.
One other issue too is, for example, along, the old Steves. People that cleared the parking lot and it snowed right to the corner, right to the sidewalk, for back edge, which are legal evidently. But then you get the sun come out and melts the snow and it rolls over the sidewalk and you got an iceberg. And, that's, I don't know how you can change that, put a curb in there somehow, I don't know.
Yeah.
But, and I suggested to Ron, I said, maybe when they do designing of the roads, they can include a little swale so that anything on the backside of the sidewalk doesn't drain and go over the sidewalk and create the iceberg. I have my cat tire bike with 60 studs on it, and so I'm able to get around, but just barely.
Yeah, the last time a civil rights complaint was filed in Fairbanks was, I guess, 2009. for lack of removing snow on the sidewalk. It was filed by a DOT employee. He was an avid cyclist against DOT, the agency he worked for, but it did result in a notice of violation. There was some type of consent decree and maintenance on sidewalks by DOT staff increased for a couple of years, and then it went back to the same. I've got a copy of that
Civil
violation.
rights complaints get filed at.
Maybe you got a copy of the violation or the complaint.
That's the title stage.
I have a copy of the
Yeah,
violation and then the order,
The finding of the.
the finding, yeah.
we have a Title VI plan, and we'll not, wanna, highlights the routes to file complaints.
You should file it initially with the DOT Civil Rights Office, like the state Civil Rights Office. And then if you don't get, if it doesn't get resolved, then you can file it with the federal Civil Rights Office. But you're supposed to start local. And if you get no action, then you can escalate it.
But yeah, the funding is a strong argument. Planning and just all of the things that go into making these facilities, right? It's like they, when these plans are drafted, there's all of this stuff to celebrate about putting in a facility finally, and then, you know, if that's not being maintained, but it was a tool that they used to leverage, you know, scoring and funding and all of the things like you were talking about. It's like that could definitely be a point to be addressed by members of the public. And we have our, you know, our Title VI plan, which might help kind of enlighten you guys a little bit more on those rights.
Well, I guess I could suggest we send a letter to the city council and just point out the problems that are being problem. And I'm not really blaming Public Works. I just think that, it's a whole. You know, the council has to get involved. They have to present the money. And the designing groups have to be involved and design properly, et cetera, et cetera.
You're not complaining about the design, are you? You're just complaining about the fact that it's not being done.
No, the design's part of it. I mean, when you got the snow right up to the edge of the sidewalk, and it melts, it's gonna cover the sidewalk. So, that should be figured in the plan. You know, a little swale there would catch the water or whatever, or something to stop it. I mean, for example, even along, parking lot at Lathrop there, along Cowles. I mean, that whole area comes and
Dips down.
grades off to the sidewalk, which is at a slight angle to the street, and they're just all ice.
Plus, like in the, like furniture or whatever in the pedestrian right of way, I mean, we've heard a lot of feedback about how difficult it is to maintain non-motorized facilities along Cushman, let's say. So, I mean, that's all design as well.
Right. And some of it you're in a bind because of, you have to actually deal with people's property and, yeah, so that's the problem. I mean, that's what happens when you grow.
Thank you for that, Jenna. Are there any other issues? Number 10. Or committee member comments?
Just that this book is well worth the read.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh,
I don't.
that did remind me. Our next one is inclusive transportation, and we have 2 extra copies here. And we're gonna be doing them quarterly because it is a lot of work, but was very worthwhile. So this will be the next book. And that'll be in May at technical.
like our next scheduled meeting is Thursday, April 24th, 2025. We have a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second that?
10 seconds. All right.